I'm Ted Berg for SNY.TV, and this episode of Know Your Enemy heads to Texas as we take a look at the Rangers as they get set to host the Yankees. Calling into the studio is Jamey Newberg from the Newberg Report. Jamey, how are you?
Doing fine. How are you, Ted?
Good, but not as good as the Texas Rangers. They have just been tearing the cover off the ball in a very hot start to the season.
There were a lot of people down here that were kind of concerned that after Game 6 of the World Series that there'd be some sort of hangover effect, or that there's just no way this team can be as resilient as it's proven to be the past couple of years and get right back on top. But they've shown that they're as resilient as you could ever want to be, and they're not only they've not only left 2011 behind, but they're playing better baseball right now than they really have at any time in this era of the team.
Usually we like to pick one good thing and one bad thing to focus on here. There are so many good things you could pick for the Rangers right now, but talk about the power hitters in this lineup.
It's a scary lineup, and that's really the history of this team. Is even in the years where the team was terrible 10, 15 years ago, they always hit, and they always hit for power. But right now the difference, I think, is you not only have a bunch of sluggers up and down the lineup, but a lot of them are the types of players that will work pitch counts. And that's something the Yankees fans are used to with your ball club. These are guys that draw walks, and they will take a pitcher deep in the count, and there's all kinds of good residual effects when you do that. You get starting pitchers out of the game earlier when you make them work hard. And right from the top all the way down through the lineup, there's very few all-or-nothing type of power hitters in this lineup. These are guys that they can get on base different kinds of ways and take walks when that's what's given to them.
No coincidence, Jamey, that the Yankees and Rangers are 1 and 2 in the American League in scoring. Hard to find a bad thing about the Texas Rangers right now. If there is one, it's probably been the performance of Joe Nathan early on. I know it's only a couple of shaky outings, but is that a legit cause for concern?
It is, just because we're talking about a guy in his late 30s that's come off surgery, and so naturally, I guess the jury's out on whether he's going to be able to round back into form. And early on, he hasn't been real sharp. Even in a couple of the games where he did get the job done and lock things down, it got a little shaky. And you don't want to see that too often from your closer. And so far, he's been shaky really more times than not, and so yeah, there's a little bit of concern there. But one of the things the Rangers have managed to do is they've kept this team in situations where Nathan hasn't been really relied upon too often to get huge outs. He's come in a couple times with 4-run leads as they try to get him back into form, but really until yesterday, it had been a while since he came in where every pitch could change the result of the game.
And the starting pitchers have been real good leading up to him. The guy who goes tonight, Holland, a young pitcher off to a really nice start. Do you think that's a small sample size, or do you think he's taking a step forward?
He's definitely taken a step forward, and the team believed he was ready to do that when they gave him a long-term contract extension during spring training. He really came on in the second half last year and had just the outstanding performance in the World Series. And to me, one of the really big differences between this team and last year's team, the one thing you can point at to say that they have gotten better is that Holland and Matt Harrison have taken that next step, where these aren't guys that you're hoping to get good starts out of every 2 or 3 times out of 4. These are now guys that are reliable. Maybe not number one types, but the kind of guys that you'd expect to pitch in a playoff rotation, and more often than not will give you a quality start. And Holland, so far hasn't really. It's been since mid-season last year since he's had really more than 1 or 2 starts that were shaky at all.
Darvish, who's going tomorrow, has been very wild, but the results really haven't been too bad. What can we expect out of him?
You know what? Your guess is as good as mine. In 3 starts, he's gotten a little better each time, but he still has a knack for getting base runners, getting into trouble, putting guys on base early in the inning. And putting him in a situation where he's had to throw a lot of pitches to get out of trouble. And he's managed so far to get out of trouble for the most part. His ERA is in the mid-3s despite that brutal first inning in his very first start. So he's brought that down, but he's throwing a lot of pitches. And, that's one of the things we talked about earlier with the Rangers offense. When your starter's throwing a lot of pitches, you tend to, even on nights where you're getting guys out and keeping the score down, if you can't go more than six and a third innings, then you're going to start to put some pressure on the bullpen. And I think they want to see more efficiency out of Darvish naturally and not have to throw so many pitches per inning so they can get deeper into games.
And they're going to turn to Feldman for a spot start on Wednesday. doesn't look on paper like a great matchup for him against the Yankee lineup. Do you have any hope for that one?
I do. Feldman's been nails for really since the early part of last year. He's one of those glue guys that can pitch in any number of roles, and the reason he's going to start Wednesday is only because there was a rain out on either Friday or Saturday over the weekend. But he's one of those guys. He's been a 17-game winner as a starter before. He can do this, and the situation that's going to be a little dicey is that he hasn't been stretched out yet. So, whether you can get any more than maybe 4 or 5 innings out of, maybe a question. But the way the bullpen's been pitching outside of Nathan, they can cobble together a game where they're going to rely on 3, 4, 5 guys and probably get through it just fine.
Jamey, thanks so much.
You bet.
Remember, for all the latest Yankee coverage, be sure to check in at itsaboutthemoney.net and chat with other Yankee fans at nyfans.com.